Okay, welcome everybody to the July Clarity, Confidence, and Accelerator Challenge. Cash Accelerator Challenge. Sorry, I screwed that name up, even though I came up with part of it. So you're going to be with us the entire week, Monday through Friday. Now, just a couple of housekeeping things. I did send out the day one of the workbook. If you got it, printed it off, awesome. If you just got it and didn't print it off, that's okay too. You can use plain old paper and print it off when you feel like it. So just a couple of things to go over before I turn it over to Kellen, who is amazing. They have somebody else joining, so let me admit them. Block your calendar. So we're meeting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 12 Mountain, 11 Pacific, whatever the other ones are. 2 Eastern. But on Thursday we're meeting at a different time. Thursday we are meeting at 2 p.m. Mountain, 3 Central, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. So that I have handily put it out for you in the schedule in the workbook. So please look at that. Kellen, what else do I need to know? Well, I need to tell about Kellen. He's a 10-time #1 Amazon best-selling author. Kellen, how many books are you? You're going to go on number 19, I think, right?
We just finished number 19.
And we'll get that one to #1 as well. He's an award-winning speaker. He is charted 3 times #1 on Billboard charts with the group that he was with. Also sold out Carnegie Hall, which I don't know how hard that is to do, but sold out Carnegie Hall. He's been a coach to Super Bowl winners, Hollywood actresses, not actors, actresses only. Huh, interesting. But actresses, I guess, want life coaches. Some notable old money names like Rockefeller. He's been a guest lecturer at many universities, spent decades as a C-suite executive. Now, a lot of people can claim, well, they're CEO, but this is of companies that are, changing billions of dollars. Yeah, that's with a B. So I'm going to hand it over to Kellen, and welcome Kellen to the challenge. And he is your host this week.
Thank you. Bless all of your hearts for being here. My goal, she said a bunch of nice things about me, and they're all true, but none of them matter very much to you unless we can help you create what you want. And that's the only reason we're here. So this week is going to be really intense. You do need to print out the homework every day because you need to take notes. None of this is going to happen if you just sit here and write notes. You're going to need to do the homework every night so you can create clarity, confidence, cash. I had a very moment to talk with one of the participants, Sam, just before. And there'll be more people that join during the week and come when they come. Your best results will be to commit to be here. Your best results will be if you do the homework. Your best results will be if you go all in. If you don't do that, you're going to get the same level of results that you get, just putting things in halfway. So for your sake, don't do that. I'm not doing this because I need anything. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. I have no needs. I'm doing it because I have a commitment this year to help 50 million people to discover their gifts. And we're going to talk about what your unique gifts are and how to find them. And they're a combination of 3 things: to help 50 million people to discover that, and then to turn that into a business if they want to make money, to add value, to add good to the world is a phrase you'll hear me use a lot. Money follows value. If you want to create money, then you have to create value. Creating value is no different than what you've been doing all your life with whatever skills you've been selling. Every single one of you has skill or skills you've developed through your life. You may be an architect, you may be an engineer, you may be a pizza delivery person, you may be a hairstylist, you may be whatever. You developed a set of skills and you've been selling those in the marketplace. That's fine. Most people stop there. And you see the result because over 80% of people report that they don't like their job. It's not fulfilling. It's not joyful. It isn't drawing them into, and so they're selling a set of skills and making a living, but that's only one thing that you have to offer. Now, you're free to continue to offer that all the rest of your life and go through life working for the weekend and for vacation and everything and making money that way. But there's a more powerful way. And we're going to talk today about how to discover the unique voice that you have that will allow you to make the biggest impact in the world the most money, and have the most fun. Now, if that sounds like nirvana, it is, because that's where I have come to. But I didn't used to be there. So the backstory is, yeah, I did have a 30-year career as in the energy industry, many years in C-suite executive positions in the United States and Canada. But I also had secret struggles behind that, and struggled with a lot of mental illness and depression and addictions and all the rest. And that went on for decades. I didn't know to get help, and I didn't. And finally, in 2007, after 30 years at that career, I changed everything. And a divine intervention, a bunch of stuff happened, but we're not here to talk about my story. We're here to help you figure out what this is for you. So please commit, block your calendar, do the homework, and go all in. And for those of you that watch the recording later, great, but please show up, because there's a lot more people that have registered for this, and you get the most benefit, not by sitting behind the thing and watching it while you go running and that sort of thing, but by focusing and giving yourself the gift of your undivided attention. Okay, so let's get started today. On page 3 or 4, you're going to see a page like this. It talks about setting an accelerator goal. This is an acceleration process. There's the slow way to do stuff, and there's the fast way to do stuff. I encourage you to lean into doing things the fast way. People are always looking for hacks and shortcuts, and there are some, but all of them still involve work, because nobody ever fell up a mountain. You still have to climb, even though you might have hacks about how to get the best gear and how to have the best shoes and the best nutrition and the best resting cadence and all the rest. You still have to do the work, climb the hill. So I want you to think about what your accelerator goal is. Now, I've named this Clarity, Confidence, and Cash because it's clarity about what that superpower is that you have, confidence in your ability to deliver it and do something with it, and then how to create cash out of it, how to present it to the marketplace so you have value, and people perceive that value, and they pull out credit cards, they say, I want this. And so what we're going to do this week is go through that process, help you figure out what your unique superpower is. And I use superpower. I know that's a cliche word, but I'm using it anyway. Your superpower is what it actually is, and you're going to figure that out. But I'm going to give you the framework and the tools so you can as you do the homework. Then the next thing I see all the time as a coach is people lack confidence. I hear stories like, well, if I write a book, nobody will read it. And if I create a course, I don't know, who will really want what I have, and that sort of language. And I'm exaggerating a little. Sometimes it's worse than that, and sometimes it's not so much. But that happens in our minds. And so we procrastinate and we put it off and we don't do what we could do and all of the rest. Not because what we have isn't valuable, but because we have a story about it. So here's a principle I'm going to give you, and it's going to apply over and over and over again this week. There's a thing. The thing is the problem that you perceive, the barrier, the difficulty. Identifying your gift might be the thing. Another thing might be, I have too busy of a schedule. That might be the thing. Another thing is, I have too many obligations. That might be the thing. Another thing might be, I don't have enough money. I don't have any support. My spouse or SO, significant other, doesn't support me, or I have no support. Everybody has a thing, one or more things. I can tell you right this minute, the problem that keeps you from success is not the thing. It is your relationship to the thing. Okay? Externalities. We have as much money as we have. We have as much time as we have. We're as healthy as we are. The things that exist right now exist. Our relationship to that truth is what either propels us or impedes us. If we believe it is a barrier, if we believe it stops us, then it does. If we believe there's a way around it, then there is. People ask all the time, well, how do I, and then fill in the blank. How do I create a product? How do I find customers? I can promise right now, that's written in steel and fire in the sky. And it goes like this. When the want to gets bad enough, the how-tos pop up everywhere. When the want to is big enough, how-to pops up everywhere. Okay, information is free. Execution, perseverance, all that stuff, that is the gold. With the internet, now with ChatGPT and all the AI stuff, you can find out how to do anything. anywhere in a few minutes or at maximum an hour or two. The how isn't the problem. It is the will. It is the relationship to the thing. All right, cool. So those are some basic principles we're going to start with. I want you to think about this accelerator goal for yourself. Give it some serious thought. Now, I framed some language on there. Maybe that's the wrong language for you. I don't care. Fix it. Then set a goal the way you want. I picked Christmas or New Year's as the appropriate time frame. Maybe that's not. Maybe it's 90 days. Maybe it's a year. Fix it so that it works for you, because a goal is meaningless unless it lights you up. A goal is absolutely meaningless unless it lights you up, unless you look in the mirror and say that goal and you just, yeah, that. If it does that, then we have a goal worth something. If you say a goal that you think you're supposed to do or that somebody expects or whatever, you'll lose motivation and quit. Because again, of your relationship to the thing, it's not the goal, it's your relationship to the thing that matters 100% of the time, every time, all the time. So I wrote in there, I will get my first new sale by X. I don't know. You have to decide. But to get your first new sale, you have to identify your market, who needs what you have. What are you going to sell? What's the packaging of it? Is it a course? Is it a book? Is it a lecture? You know, and then you have to do the process of getting your thing created and in front of the audience. There's no mystery there. Every product that is sold on the market goes through the same process. So for you, and because it's clarity, confidence, and cash, I'm assuming everybody here is interested in making money from their gifts, talents, passions, you know, that string of words. Is there anybody with which money is absolutely not of interest? Nobody. Okay, good. And if anyone who watches these recordings decides that money is really not it at all, then here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to, and you all better be in the Facebook group. If you're not, and that's how we communicate. So get in the Facebook group and tell me what it is. What is the thing? It's not money. And there may be things besides money. You might be impact and making a difference and helping people. My podcast is called Your Ultimate Life, creating a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy by serving with your gifts and talents, skills. And so there's purpose and everything else there, but there's also money, because money is the measurement of the intensity of people's investment, money and time. Okay. So I'll get my first new sale by X. You'll need to fill that in as we go. You're going to change it a bunch of times, because as you get a handle on what it takes to create the product or service that we're going to talk about, then it'll be real for you. Well, let's see, it'll take me this long to do that, and you'll get that stuff figured out. And then the second line is a corollary to that. I will earn X by Y. Now, I wrote a book, one of my 19 books, called The Results Equation. And the results equation starts with a fundamental question. Do what by when? Do what by when? And that's true whether you're building a building, whether you're writing some software. It's true in any case. And this formula in here came as a result of the years and years of consulting that I did in the United States and Canada that earned me, a lot of money. And so this formula is a process that will work every time for any project. But you have to do it. It doesn't do the project for you. All right. So I will earn X by Y. That's something you need to figure out. Now, the way you need to figure that out is, okay, after you figure out and we'll do this as we go along, when you figure out what product you're going to offer and the price point, you'll say, well, I want to make $10,000 by Halloween. Okay. In order to make $10,000 by Halloween, and I'm going to sell a $250 product. Well, I've got to sell 4 of those for $1,000. I've got to sell 40 of those for $10,000. If I want to have $10,000 by Halloween, that's new money, not counting what I'm doing right now, I've got to create a product that's worth $250, and I've got to find 40 people that'll buy it. So that's do what by when. Now, figuring out what that is, what the product looks like. Is it videos? Is it written? Is it workbooks? Is it information on how to plant petunias? I don't know. That depends on the stuff we're going to go through in a minute for you. And it'll be different for each one of you. But there is something that you can do. And we'll go through that starting in just a minute. So creating I will earn X by Y is not out of the air. right? So I have a goal this year. One of my goals is I'm going to help 50 million people discover their gifts. That was set October 14th of last year because my year starts October 14th. I had to reverse engineer that. Well, that means I got to find places to reach that many people. So I have a podcast, and I just appeared this morning on another one, and I've been on 300 and something people's shows and to reach people with this message. And I started thinking about, how do I do that? Well, where do I get podcasts? Well, there's Facebook groups and there's sites for that. And so I just went after the things. And that's what we're going to help you do. And it's going to take the work. And that's one. There's always two projects. The first project is the external project, the set of activities that you're going to have to do to make something. Okay, my son's a carpenter, and he just built a nice recording studio. Not for me. That'll come later. He built me a nice vocal booth, which is over here. I do have a recording studio. But anyway, he built a nice recording studio for a client. And the project to do it involves specs and diagrams and materials and everything else. So that's the external project. Especially when you're looking in your own heart at these individual gifts that you're going to offer, and you have all those fears that we talked about earlier. The second project is the internal project. Because the external project is the set of activities, the website you need to build, the videos you need to shoot, the copy you need to write, the packaging, the website. Those are the external project. The internal project is the language, the excuses, the procrastination, the relationship to the thing part that we talked about earlier. So that's the internal project. And you're going to be working on both these projects at the same time, and you can't ignore either one. You cannot ignore either one. And the good news is they're both under your control. And the internal one is completely under your control. Sometimes the external one might depending on what you're building, on permits and, some other things that you're doing. But the internal one is 100% under your control. And that's good news, because that's the hardest one. The external project, shooting videos, building a project, writing copy, outlining something that you want to sell in the world, no matter what it is, accounting services, all the way to coaching services like I do, to helping people write books, which is something else I do. All of those things, how to do that, those processes are well understood. Okay, good. Then the last line on the goal is, my Christmas or New Year's bonus to myself is, and it gives you a by when, New Year's, and you decide to do what. Now, I don't want any of those to be pie in the sky. I'm going to throw a number up. I'm going to have $100,000 by Christmas. Why? Because I think that would be cool. Well, you can do that if you want. But then the work is going to be reverse engineering that. What do I need to do? What needs to happen in order for that to be ready and to sell and to market and everything else? All right. Now, I've been talking really fast for a little bit, and I want to stop for a breath and let you have a breath, and then we'll go on. I want you to put comments that you have or questions in the chat. Use the chat. Joy's going to moderate. Joy, for those of you that don't know, is my business partner. She's also a beloved angel and the reason I breathe. So we'll just say that, and she's not even embarrassed. Anyway, she was part of that divine intervention that happened in 2007 that changed the whole world. And if you're interested in that story, it's in another book called Tightrope of Depression, my journey from darkness, despair, and death to light, love, and life. And it talks about my life from 0 to 52 and what happened and the mess and the change. Okay.
Well, Kellen, if anybody has a question, just put up your hand and
questions.
Questions. I have a question.
Okay.
On your sheet, you said I will get my first new sale by, that date. And then I will earn XYZ by another date. So for me, if I'm looking to get my first client by August 1st, then my sort of, accelerator goal then would, for me, be like from 90 days out. Because if I'm getting my first client in this new area that I'm doing, YouTube video ranking, I'm not going to go from my first client August 1st to my dream goal, obviously that same day. But I think within 90 days, that's an achievable, doing the steps. So I have to reach out to X number of people and get so many response, all
Right.
that kind of stuff you have to go through. Yeah.
So that's exactly the thing. The first sale is just that, because the hardest thing is to finish the product and get your first sale. That's the hardest. Scaling it after you've done that is a different process. And so you say, I'm going to get my first sale by this. And I don't know that you're going to know that right this minute. I just want you to keep in mind this goal as we start going through this, because it'll get clear to you as we go along. All right. So the other thing I want to invite you to do is on this page, there's an opportunity to go VIP, which costs a little bit more, an extra $50 or something. But what it does is it provides you a few extra hours of individual time. Now, usually only 4 or 5 people do that. So, and including those of you that are listening and watching later, that's an opportunity for you. And that allows me simply to dig in deeper for your specific goals and your specific help and answer your individual stuff. Because even if I tell you exactly the same thing, when it feels like it's tailored to your specific stuff, it feels more fun for me. So I like the more individual attention. All right, let's get to day one. And the page is Let's Get Clear. Okay, let's get clear. Let's get clear. Here are this. Now we're going to dig into the nitty gritty. All this stuff I've said is preparatory work to get you to understand what the process is, what we're going to do, think about goals and so forth. We're going to start right now with the clarity piece. I hear all the time, and I meet probably somewhere between 20 and 30, maybe 40 new people a week, just because I'm in a lot of places and I do a lot of stuff. What I hear more than anything else, there's 2 things. One is, I don't know what to do in terms of finding this ideal goal and monetizing it. I don't really know what to do. And the second one is, I don't have time. I have too many things. My schedule's full. I don't know. So those are the 2 things that I hear all the time. And there may be others. You maybe have a different one. And if you do, put it in the chat. No, my problem is this one. Okay, fine. Put it in there and we'll address it, as many of them as we can. Here, none of those are true. None of those are true. And right now we're going to dive into the absolute, no holds barred, nitty gritty of exactly how to find your superpower. You have 3 things. This is on page 1, day 1. There's a blank there. So this is partly fill in the blank. You have 3 goes in that blank. You have 3 things that make you unique. You have 3 things. So does every person breathing air. But I have never heard another person ever talk about these 3 things, identify them, and weave them together like I'm going to do right now for you. The first thing that you have is you have what I said a minute ago, a set of existing skills. Now, that's the answer to part 1. You need to also have this page up, which is day 1, your skills, because we're going to start filling these columns in for you. This is your homework. We're going to do part of it here in class. And then I want you to think more about it, because this foundational piece has let me write 19 books, create 15 products, get a coaching practice around the world, speak on 300 plus appearances in the last year, and create all kinds of fun, purpose, prosperity, and joy. And so I'm telling you exactly, without anything left out, what I have done and help people do. Number 1, your skills. Now, I can give you some examples. Skills are things you've learned to do that you have sold in the marketplace. So, for example, I'll give you completely different. One of my skills is I taught piano. I started playing when I was 5. I started teaching when I was 17. And on and off, I taught for about 40 years. I'm 67. I'll be 68 in December. So I quit about 10 years ago, just because. So that is a skill. I can teach piano. Corollary skills of that is I've also taught jazz improvisation, jazz arrangement, electronic music, and some other stuff. So I have a set of musical skills I can teach. Okay. Another skill that I have is I have learned how to write books. I've written a lot, and one of the books I wrote was a skill. It was a book called The Story Arc. After I wrote a bunch of books, I realized I have a really good system. So I'm going to write a book about how to write books. And it's not only how to write books, but how to create courses and how to create a powerful keynote. It's about a story process to put together a story, a powerful point, and then sell people, how to enroll people in your stuff. So hey, that's another thing I know how to do. I know how to write books. I wasn't born that way. Those are skills that I've developed. Another thing that I've developed over the years is leadership. So I rose up through corporate ranks, and I, got promoted and, leadership stuff, and took some chances, and have gone to, Harvard charm schools and that sort of thing for a month, management schools, all that crap. So I've done all that. I've developed a skill in leadership. So there's a list, and I want you to go through your life, and you don't have to pick any or all of these, but here's how you start. What skills do you have that you have sold in the marketplace that right now are worth something? Maybe you program computers. Maybe you raise petunias. Maybe, I know Pamela on here is a great preacher, and she's a lover of especially girls, just coming of age girls with their struggles. I know that about her. And so each of you have a set of those skills, and I want you to list them. And if you run out of room, use another piece of paper. Be generous with yourself. What are the skills that you've learned that have value in the marketplace? Okay, the second part of your superpower is, and this will go in line number 2, right here. The 3 parts of your superpower. Part 2 is you have a set of natural gifts. Natural gifts. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, some people maybe are blessed with things that are obvious, like music, or they can draw well, or that sort of thing. They have a good voice and they sing, and those are the ones we think about when we think about gifts. Ooh, they're a natural born something. But we also say that about people who are friendly, naturally outgoing, naturally, they're naturally funny, or they're not self-conscious, or maybe some people listen really well. They're just natural good listeners. Or some people are really empathetic and they just understand people. I knew someone who I was always blown away. They just had this intuitive sense to know what the right thing to say or do in a situation was, even thorny and difficult situations, just kind of knew that made people feel better. And, and that's somewhere between empathy and love and something. So this is important. And here's the difference between the skills you've developed and your natural gifts. Lots of people develop skills and sell them their whole life in the marketplace, and lots of people hate their jobs. We talked about that earlier. It's because they haven't married any of the natural gifts they have. And so the fact that you've developed a skill and can sell it in the marketplace is good. You get to eat, but it tends not to be fulfilling over the long term. And unless you mix in the other things that you're gifted at, that feel good, that you're naturally drawn to do. Okay. All right. So that's column 2. Now, if I give you some of the gifts that I know that I have, is I have the gift of my voice. I cannot count the number of times people have told me I have a powerful, commanding voice. Some people say, ooh, he has a radio voice. Tell you a funny story. I was at a Ryan Deiss event and those of you that do online stuff knew who Ryan Deiss is, longtime big dog internet marketer. He was having an event, and there was a local celebrity radio announcer that was there, and he was going to give some people time on the radio. I don't know what it was, but you had to come up in order to win. You had to get in line, and there were probably 300 or 400 people in the room, and you had to come up and get in line and give a pitch. And in order to even be selected for that, you had to raise your hand and something. I don't know. So I had raised my hand. I had spoken, was told to get in line, et cetera, et cetera. And there was a long line of people getting up, ready to get up and give their pitch. to get selected for something. And I don't remember anything else about the day because it's at least 10, 11 years ago. But what I do remember is halfway up the line, there was a peck on my shoulder, peck, 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 peck. And I turned around and there was some dude and he said, "Can I be in front of you?" And there was a big long line. So I was, "Yeah, whatever, sure, go ahead." And then I let him be in front of me. And he said, I said, "Well, why?" I said, "I don't care, but why did you want to be in front of me?" And he looked at me and he said, "With your voice, I do not want to be after you." And so I thought, huh. And so I've heard that a lot. I have a persuasive voice. So that's a gift. Okay. And another gift that I have is music. So I have developed that into a skill, but I also have a gift. I have a gift for arrangement and a gift for good sounding melodies and, those kinds of things. So that's a gift that I have. And so there can be others, but I want you to, it's not about me again. I'm giving you those as examples. So you look deeply at your empathy, at the things you love to do, at the things that you're drawn toward. Okay, because those are things that will augment your natural skills. They will augment, make more powerful, increase the value of your natural skills. The third thing that you have that every person has is your life experience. Now, what I mean by that is I told you that I had gone through a bunch of struggles. I ended up in my writing tightrope and being in and out of different rehabs and addiction. I attempted suicide a couple times and, gratefully failed and a bunch of other stuff. So I've had those experiences. And I also got really sick and 5 years ago and died in the ICU. And I wrote a book called Meeting God at the Door because after I died, I had unexpectedly a near-death experience. But they don't have to be dramatic like those. You may have had, your parents may have gotten divorced and that taught you things. You may have had a severe illness. My beloved angel wife, Joy, she had an open heart surgery when she was about 10. Something's wrong and they had to fix it, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these experiences of your life shape you, shape me. They give us our view, our feeling, our yearnings about what we want to do. Often it is I like helping people. So the other thing I hear all the time, besides I don't know what to do and I don't have enough time, is I want to help people. That is the phrase I hear every time. I want to help people. Okay, good. We are built to love and serve each other. So every time I hear someone say that, it's like heroic. Yes, I want to help people. So the key here is to figure out how, in what way you individually can create something that helps people in a good way, that adds good to the world. We have the ability today to reach a larger market than we've ever had. When I started my first recording studio 40 years ago, I advertised in the local artist paper and that was it. No internet, no anything. And then I put an ad in the yellow pages, all those and we didn't have the ability to transfer files across the country. So when I ended up doing some commercials for a large something or other, they'd done some of the stuff in Chicago. And of course, 8:30 a.m. delivery by FedEx became standard because you had to have stuff. Everything was due yesterday in that world. In the media world, it seems like everything needs to be on the air yesterday morning. And so FedEx 8:30 Saturday morning, knock on the door. Here's the, big tape bar, tape reel, put it on the recorder and add the parts I was going to do or do whatever. Okay, so today we can get all over the world with a click. You can access everybody. Now, that does a couple of things. That makes us all overwhelmed with all the crap. Yes. But it also provides us the opportunity to connect, to reach authentically. And the idea that there's too much noise and you can't do that is not true. I know that. I went from not being very internet savvy. I was one of those executives that kind of, whatever, to being very savvy in the last 15 years as I've built this, having a worldwide clientele. I have clients in Mexico and Europe and Australia and US and Canada. And many of them I've never met face to face, press to flesh. So it is possible. It is not complicated, and the internet is the great democratizer. Like, we can all have it and we can all use it. And again, it is not the thing, it's our relationship to the thing. Well, I don't know how, I can't, I'm not this, I'm not that. That's all this relationship stuff. So those three things, I labeled that third column your learning, because your life experience provides you with learning. Now, those, especially the difficult experiences, okay, the divorces, the bankruptcies, the illnesses, the failings, the bad stuff you didn't expect. Those things can either ruin you or they can refine you. And sometimes they do both. That was me. So my depression and everything else ruined me for 35 years. And then it refined me. So it isn't one and done. The learnings that you have, that column is what do you know that you know from your own life experience. So from having been in and out of rehab and failed so many times and now succeeded, you know, something I know is that it's never too late. I know that. Another thing I know from that is that every single person, especially you guys that are here and have the courage to be right here, right now, every single person has this combination of gifts. You have something valuable to add. I know that. So that's another learning that I have. And I could go on, but my learnings aren't the point. The point of these three columns is for you to sit quietly today and deeply explore what are your skills, what are your gifts that you have, and what are the things you know that you've learned from your own life experience. And it might be that you hated corporate, or, you know, and you wanted to get out of there. And so I did that. And I was a consultant the last, I don't know, 15 years of my 30, 10, 15, I don't know. And so those learnings, you know, they can be from traumas, like I had bankruptcy and addictions and everything else. They can be from positive things. I got to go speak at different universities, and, you know, that taught me some things. Being a liar, being a pathological liar, hiding all my addictions and everything else, that taught me a lot too. It taught me a lot about self-loathing. It taught me a lot about hiding. It taught me a lot about skeletons in the closet. Then changing those things to transparency and being vulnerable. That has taught me a lot. So that last column, that life experience thread, and I think of it as a rope. So think of it as a great big nylon rope, like you might see in a shipyard, right? Those great big ropes and the three threads. And, you know, your existing skills is the blue one, and the yellow one is your natural gifts, and the white one is your life experience. If you weave those together, I promise you, I have never had a conversation with someone where within an hour we couldn't go through those and identify what they really love to do, and they know they could do it and create something valuable every single time. So that's what today is beginning for you. Those are the three pieces you need to look at to say, what is it that I could create? And it may be more of one than another, and it doesn't have to be right the first time. In fact, I guarantee you're going to refine it 15 times as you go through this. One of the things I started with when I started doing this stuff is I had a website, and the name of the website is whyyourvideomarketingsucks.com. Okay. And it was about presence and how to show up online and how to be on the camera and how to do that, how to connect even through the lens and stuff. So I knew how to do that, but I wasn't born that way. I used to be terrified to death to get up and speak, and all the same pile of fears that lots of people have. I learned that, and then I let the experience, and the experience that I had that changed everything wasn't the learning of skills. It was the love of people. And that love of people came because of the stuff I'd been through. So that was column 3 stuff. So the skills about how to make eye contact and how to modulate my voice and those are learnable skills, but the passion came from column 3. Okay, now I've been talking like a fire hose again for a while, and I'm going to ask for questions. Raise your hand if you have questions or comments. And don't be shy. Anybody awake? I see Richard's awake. Sam, I see you're awake. Athalia, I don't know if you're awake or not. I saw your video had problems earlier. So thank you for being here, even though your video is partly green.
I think
Are
Sam
you,
has something.
Sam, please.
No? Oh, you just,
He was confirming that he was awake.
yeah.
I'm
But
awake. I'm confirming.
Oh, good. But this list will be exhaustive. It's not just, 10, there's 10, how many lines there are here. It's going to be, could be pages long. And it actually should be pages long. Because
We'll start with the most fun ones.
But even like since we were 5 or 6 or whatever things we used to do, I mean, this is where, you're going back in time too to figure out, I really like that when I was 10, whatever that is. So it should be exhaustive and then narrow down. At least that's how I look at it.
Rich.
Hi, Kellen. For those who are in the group, I've known Kellen I've been in Kellen's sphere for almost 10 years, and on and off, a lot more off than on. And I came here because after not speaking to Kellen for probably 4 years, something like that, I talked to him 2-3 weeks ago, and he told me about not only this, but also about the story arc. And so I went and got the book, hoping that this would be related to the book, which of course I can see it is. And what I was thinking, Kellen, in part, I was amused by your story about the guy wanting to get in front of you in line, because I could relate to that with you. And as I said to you in our conversation a couple of weeks ago, knowing you as long as I have, I was very intimidated by you in the beginning, and you can come across as being very hard ass and intimidating. But what I was noticing and thinking about as I was watching your share and your guidance is when you show up with the confidence that you are inviting us, you're modeling the confidence you're inviting me to bring forth in this process, and trust the process and trust the universe. And there's nothing tentative about your confidence that the process actually works. That registers with me very differently than it did 8 and 9 years ago. And I appreciate that transformation, just that much transformation, to be able to be around you and to be comfortable in your love, that I understand much differently than I did before.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I absolutely have a rigorous and ongoing process of personal growth as well. And of course, you have changed as well. So I want to now, does anyone else have anything? Pamela or Athalia? I hope I'm saying that right, Athalia. Do you guys have any questions or comments? No. Okay. So there's one other piece on the Let's Get Clear page. It says there's 6 mistakes to avoid with your superpower. And these are really common mistakes. And there's 2 that they're not the only ones, but there's 2 that I've identified with each of those 3 threads. And I want you to write these down, fill in the blanks. Okay. Because they will come into your mind in more degrees or less degrees, depending on where you're at in your relationship. So the first thread is your existing skills. Okay, the things you've learned how to do and sell in the marketplace. When we have a job and we're a cog in somebody's machine, there's always some safeguards and other people, and maybe there's some mistakes or redos or things, and it doesn't feel so exposed. When you are trying to put a product out on your own, you don't have that safety net. You're putting it out there. And so even if it's a skill you've developed, so I'll give you an example. I know how to use Adobe Premiere Pro pretty well. I know how to edit video pretty well. And I know how to do titles and overlays and some, I wouldn't consider myself like Hollywood stuff, but you know, medium good, medium compared to that. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably a 7. But I still felt a little worried. So I did the intros and outros, 30 seconds for a network television program that I have on a new network. And of course, it's called the channel is Your Ultimate Life, because everything I'm doing is. But the show is called Creative Save the World. And the lady that owns the network told me to do an intro and outro. So I looked at a bunch of them and, and I did one. And I thought, like you might, as you put it out there, is she going to like this? Is she going to think I look like, a 2-bit amateur? Oh, dear. Right. I had that whole set of things going through my heart. And I put it out there anyway. And I edited at 10 episodes of the first season of Creative Save the World, which was the name of the 10 episodes. And I didn't hear anything. And of course, we catastrophized. So I was imagining, oh, dear, she doesn't like it and isn't ready to tell me that I suck. And then after a while, she got back to me and she not only liked it, but she wanted to have me do some editing for a couple of other people that are on the network. So she's hired me essentially. Will you do some editing? And that is a skill that I have, but I don't want to sell that one because that doesn't line up with the other things that I love to do. Yeah, I've learned how to do that skill, but that's like editing. Yes, I can be creative enough to think of the stuff, but it's like, I don't think I want to do that. So I have one assignment and she's paying me a little and I'm going to do that for her. But that was catastrophizing. So this is why with your existing skills, here are the 2 big mistakes. Number 1 is we feel like we've got to be done. And by that, I mean, we got to be the best. We got to be the top of the game. We got to be all that. So whatever existing skill we've learned, if I was teaching piano or I was going to go play some music somewhere or even write a song and put it out there. And, as of today, I have 85 songs on Spotify and I have 3 more that are going up this week in another EP. But my first ones were terrifying. I thought, oh, dear, what if it's all that same nonsense? Because we feel like it's got to be all that. So that fear is one of the biggest mistakes. The second fear that we have about our existing skills is we're afraid there's too much competition. There's too much competition. I don't count. I'll get buried in the noise. The answer to that question is your rope, your 3 strands, because no one has your set of developed skills. They might have better skills than you in something, but they don't have your natural gifts, and they certainly don't have your life experience. And when you put those together, you truly do have a unique gift and voice, talent, superpower. If you want to use the cliche, you do. You do. And the only issue is not whether you have it, is are you willing to do the work to mess around with the threads until it comes out for you? And you're going to make mistakes. Like I had that website, whyyourvideomarketingsucks.com. And I sold members into my membership and I had coaching clients all about video and how to talk and voice modulation and presentation and camera, making love to the lens and all that jazz. And eventually I got bored. And it wasn't fun anymore. And the reason is because it was a skill that I had, but it didn't connect to this passion that I have about life and coaching and using the things. It wasn't using my life experience, that real passion. It wasn't using that enough. So it fizzled out. So I changed it and I did another thing and another thing. So it didn't happen all at once. It happened over several iterations. So those are the 2 things with the existing skills. We think we got to be done or the top of the heap, and you don't. And the other one is there's too much competition and there's not. You are a class of 1. I know you've heard that, and that's another cliche too. You're in a class by yourself. You are. You can pretend you're not. And a lot of people do. Most people settle for mediocrity. They settle for the easy and obvious. But you're in a class of one. Now, the challenge then is, okay, how do I describe that class of one? How do I make it apparent, obvious, clear that this class of one actually has something valuable to offer? That's way easier when you get over the head trash that says, maybe I'm not. Because the maybe I'm not noise clouds our ability to be creative and to do that class of one stuff. You are in a class of one. That is a fact. All right, so that's that. Now, the natural gifts, there's two mistakes in that one I want to give you that people make. And again, these aren't the only mistakes, but they're the ones I see a lot. So the first mistake of natural gifts is people feel like they don't matter. They don't matter. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, I know I do that, but so what? So does everybody. Okay. And the reason we feel that way, there's maybe several reasons, but one of the reasons we feel that way is because it's your natural gift. So the very fact that it is your natural gift makes you think, doesn't matter. Can't everybody do that? What? Right? And that is not true. And so that doesn't mean you wear a big sign and stand on the street corner with a sandwich board saying, yo, I'm cool. I'm not talking about that, but internal recognition that the gifts you have actually matter is important. It's critical. You and I, every human being, we're built to love and serve each other. We're happiest when we're in community, when we're loving, when we're serving, when we're adding good to the world. That is how we have more oxytocin and dopamine and stuff in our bodies. We're built to enjoy that space of cooperative, collaborative love, creation, and growth. Okay, so we're given all these gifts and they're different. Everybody's got different gifts in different amounts and different things. The purpose of those gifts was for us to be able to work collaboratively and love and serve each other. So diminishing them, pretending they don't matter, is the first huge mistake. They do matter. In fact, they matter a lot. And in fact, you and I individually were given these gifts on purpose. There's no accidents involved. All right. The second big mistake is they're not special. Now, that's different than they don't matter. Don't matter means they won't make any difference. They're not important enough to matter. Well, ask a person who's suffered a great loss. If someone who is very empathetic and able to just listen, ask them if that matters. It matters a lot. It might save a life. And I'm not even exaggerating. I had a phone call once from someone that I didn't know. Somehow I got his phone number. He got mine or something. I called him and he was talking. He was in New York and he was living in his car and he talked about a sad story and divorce and financial, this, that, and the other. And I spent a long time with him on the phone, a long time. And I did the best I could to encourage him to reach out for help and this and that and the other. And I gave him everything that I possibly could. And it mattered, but only for a while because he didn't reach out again. And I found out a few weeks later that he committed suicide. Now, I never knew him. I didn't know him. But if he had found someone there that was doing for him on a regular basis what I did that one time, that mattered. It would have mattered. He'd be alive, breathing, changed, made the corner, made the change. So never think that your gifts don't matter. They matter. They may not matter every day in every circumstance, but they matter and they matter a lot. The second thing is that they're not special. And that's like, well, everybody can do that. And I have a funny story about that. I was a senior in high school and I played, one of the instruments I played was a trumpet. I played the trumpet in jazz band. Now in jazz music, you know, trumpets playing really high notes is like a big deal. Screaming trumpets way up high. Okay. And the favorite player at the time was a guy named Menard Ferguson, who is dead now, but he was played with If you don't know jazz and you don't know trumpet pedigree, you never heard of him, but he's a big deal. He was a big deal. And so we were listening one day to a record, his band, big band, playing all that jazz screaming stuff. And he played a really high note and held it for a long time. And I said, listen to that G. Listen to that G, screaming high G. And the other people looked at me and said, how do you know that's a G? And I was scared. I felt embarrassed. I thought, I don't know. It sounds like one. Doesn't everybody know that? And so what I realized is the gift that I had was the ability of perfect pitch. My ears can hear a pitch, and I can tell you what note that is. I didn't know it up until that moment. And most importantly, I didn't know that everybody else couldn't do that either. I'm like, what? And so it freaked me out. I'm like, I better shut up. I'm going to get in trouble here saying stuff. So your gifts are special. They matter and they're special. All right. So let's go to the third one, your life experience. The life experience, the first big thing is some people make the mistake of feeling like you got to have gone through hell. You have to have stared death in the face and been the, life hanging thread, died and been an addict and struggled depression and had people chasing you down the dark alleys and all that before it matters. That you have to have some monumental, earth-shattering, world-changing thing. Well, that happens to have been my stuff. But I can promise you right here, right now, that it isn't most people's. Most people don't have decades of addiction and struggling in depression and attempted suicide and everything else, but more do than you think. And so the first mistake is thinking it has to be monumental in order to matter. And that's not true. Your life experience was tailored for you. The way I view it is maybe I was slow enough in learning that I had to have more dramatic things to get my shit together. I don't know. But it doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to have mattered to you. I sat with a person the other day and we talked about their life experience. And the first thing they said is they'd read some of my stuff. And they said, well, I don't have anything like you're busy apologizing because they hadn't, had the universe fall apart on them. And I stopped them. I said, I'm not even going to hear that. I said, I want you to tell me the things that mattered to you. And so they went on and told me some stuff about animals in their life and about some parent things and some domestic troubles that were. And so then we talked about that and we talked about what it meant to them. And it wasn't very long before, they were emotional and they realized this has been powerful for them. So it doesn't matter that it isn't this. It matters that it's yours and it matters that you mine it for the changes. The second mistake that people make with their life experience also is they feel like they got to be done. It's the same as with the existing skills. They feel like they got to be all the way up at the top. Well, if you've ever been in any of the 12-step programs, you know that sponsors are people that have just been there a little longer and they help people that are just starting. Nobody's ever done. The mountain of personal development doesn't have a top. The yearnings, the yearnings that made a person feel like they were needed, addictions and stuff like that, they never go away. Like the monster of not good enough is always somewhere in the closet. And so the idea that you got to be done in order to use your personal life experiences is not true either. If you went through a divorce last month and you're busy climbing out of that hole and there was big betrayal and struggle, that journey is the juice. The journey is the juice, not the destination. Okay? So those are the 6 things. Existing skills, you got to be done or finished or the best. There's too much competition. Natural gifts is that they don't matter and they're not special. And life experience is that you're there's another way to say the failure one, but you got to have the catastrophic experiences or you don't really have a story, and that's not true. And then the last piece is that you've got to be all healed and healthy, and that's not true either. because the journey is the juice, like I said. All right. So our time's up today. Your homework is to go to work and get your 3 things filled out. Figure out who the hell you are and how you could possibly weave that together and create a bunch of silly ones. There's nothing off the table. There's nothing off limits. What skills do you got? What gifts do you have? What life experience has drawn you forward? Okay. And then we're going to talk tomorrow more about this, but those are the things. We'll talk about how to turn that into products and stuff like that. But right now we're just identifying who you are, and tell the truth and get rid of that, all that noise in your head that it's not good enough, not this, not that, because none of that's true. You can allow it to be true, but it isn't. Okay. Final chance. Questions. No. Okay. So I want to I invite you again to join the VIP, which will be some extra hours on Friday and Saturday if you want to, and where we can do more, because this is a lot one way. What I want to do on those days is 2-way, because by then you'll have a product outlined, you'll have a target market identified, and we get into the nitty gritty of how to start making sales, which is the cash part of clarity and confidence. Right now, we're working on clarity, getting clear on what you have to offer. Okay? Final questions. All right. See you tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Athalia, thank you for coming. Pamela, thank you for coming. Obviously, Richard and Sam, I have to squint because my eyes suck to see the little print on the screen. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye, guys.